Hello and welcome to the Extreme Hardware Podcast, installment number 10, also known as episode number 9 to Chris and the rest of the world.
I don't even care anymore. I do not remember.
And
I do not remember recording this last week. I don't know what we talked about.
The defeatist mentality that I was hoping for.
Perfect. Anyway, I'm your host, Alex, and we have joining me today a very special person, Chris.
Yeah, that's me.
Along with that, we have Simmons, as usual. He is Simmonsy, I guess.
He's also very special.
Simmons.
I mean, sure. Cinnamon Simmons, I guess.
That's
I don't
like
that.
your stripper name.
Oh, I hope not.
And then we have the delightful Frick Frock, I suppose.
You know, so good you had to say it twice.
I've run out of
Absolutely.
D's.
You know, I didn't I say this last time? Like, eventually you're gonna run out, and then what do? Now
I had a D in my mind.
It's just lazy.
But now I've forgotten what the D was.
you've made a fool of
you
yourself.
had a D in your mind.
Everybody is laughing at you for what you've done.
That's
All right, so
that's annoying.
I've just opened up a Hershey bar because I bought clearance sale Halloween candy.
Oh yes, there you go. See, now that's a smart man.
Okay, wait.
Ingenuity.
Frick, you are someone who is a renowned candy connoisseur.
I do eat, yes.
What is your opinion of Hershey's chocolate? Because it is quite a hotly contested sort of chocolate.
Now, so it's funny because I reviewed a Hershey bar on the channel, and the only reason I reviewed a Hershey bar on the channel is because the Hershey bar is the most popular chocolate bar in America, which really just says more about America than anything else.
Honestly, I mean, but it is kind of American.
Well, no, okay. So the Hershey bar originally came out because real chocolate back in the days, like in the early 1900s or whenever, real chocolate was going through a bit of a crisis and it was really, really expensive to get. So John Hershey Dingleberry, whatever his name is, came up with it. And he's like, I want to make chocolate affordable for the masses. So we basically made this bar that's like 20% cocoa and like 80% filler is essentially what it is. So it was meant to be chocolate for a mainstream audience. And yeah, despite having more cocoa than ever, it's still using that same recipe. So
Yeah. Oh, also,
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
no, go ahead.
since it's the holiday season at long last, it is November 1st, which means we are now allowed to acknowledge that Christmas exists. I got some Ghirardelli peppermint bark as well. Been going through withdrawal for that stuff for 10 months.
I mean, honestly, dude, you just need to stock up.
Yeah, dude,
Just keep it in the freezer.
that's what I did last year, except I ran out by February.
Well, okay. First of all, you're not supposed to eat an entire package in one sitting.
Shut up,
No, that's
Simmons! It's my time.
no, real quick,
This is how you get your diabetes.
it's advanced
That's what I
diabetes.
said.
Diabetes.
What you got to do
times
now?
7.
Now, Alex, you're actually in an interesting position because now Simmons and I, and probably Chris, we always get eggnog around this time of year. But I don't know if that was that common where you came from. Are you guys going to get hella eggnog now, or are you just grossed out by it?
So back in Africa, the land of dirt, eggnog was quite a rare commodity. Okay, I actually never had eggnog in South Africa. It's not even like unpopular. It's just like not a thing at all.
No one's heard of it.
No one. Because the thing about South Africa, it's in the southern hemisphere. So a lot of the Christmas traditions are very different because it's going into full-blown summer. So instead of being like, oh, you're indoors, huddled around a fire and kind of warm drinks and stuff like that, you're kind of going for the complete opposite. So it's more like you have a braai outside, which is a barbecue for Americans. And you get all the family together and like it's a very outdoorsy thing, you go swimming and whatever like that. And yeah, a lot of American traditions, I think, of also like foods and stuff are focused around warmth and, like the warmer dishes, warmer foods, warmer drinks and stuff indoors.
So what's the South African equivalent of eggnog?
So getting absolutely smashed on beer or wine.
Oh yeah. Put an egg in there.
I mean,
It's the
but
same thing.
I think that's a worldwide tradition. Honestly, let's be real here.
Mm.
No, people think like pineapple and pizza is a contentious thing to argue about. Eggnog has some of the most fervent debates I've ever seen.
So with eggnog, just out of curiosity, homemade eggnog, at least from what I've experienced, because I haven't had that much, homemade eggnog is by far and away the best. Like,
Absolutely.
I don't know why store-bought eggnog is so bad, because it's
because
simple ingredients.
but you have to pasteurize it for shelf life. So a lot of the niceties that you get from fresh eggnog just won't work because it will expire after a few days.
Yeah,
due to
nature my
the drink is.
daddy. Also, the way pasteurization works, you can do it for a long time at a relatively low temperature, or you can do it for a short time at a very high temperature. Guess which one gets better throughput on a production line?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I think definitely this Christmas I'm gonna be making some eggnog for myself.
That's going to be interesting. I think you will have much to say because you can join the debate. Now, I'm not going to say what's lay on, but I will say that if you're in the right mood, if you've got that very specific craving, there's nothing that quite satisfies you like a cup of eggnog. It's just unmatchable.
Oh,
whoa.
Yeah, and then if you're feeling extra spicy, you just add like a little bit of like it's like cinnamon whiskey to it, like Fireball or something like that, and oh my gosh,
that's it right there.
I have a confession to make. I've never actually had eggnog, and the idea repulses me because eggs are. Ugh.
Chris, do you like mayonnaise?
No.
Okay, well, all right. Well, I was gonna say if you like mayonnaise, then I would have to judge you. But since you don't like mayonnaise, then we're.
Do you like?
Wait, is
baked?
egg?
Yeah, you go for it.
Is eggnog just mayo plus liquor?
No. But the premise is that you're making it with uncooked egg. Like mayonnaise is made with egg yolk, if I remember correctly. No.
The good stuff
It's
is
not yolk, but it's
Look,
right,
I will eat just cookie dough by the bowlful, but that doesn't really count because the egg is very minimal. It's just there as an emulsifier. It doesn't really add that much flavor
that's
to it.
exact same for eggnog.
Then why is it called eggnog if the egg is only a small part?
Have you ever looked up a recipe for eggnog?
No.
Well,
all right, do that after the podcast because we should probably start talking about tech.
I'm looking at
Eggnog is technology.
This is your standard eggnog recipe, Chris. It's 4 eggnog, 4 egg yolks,
4
third
eggnogs.
I mean, that would work
4
too.
cartons of eggnog.
Eggnog recipe. Use eggnog. It's 4 egg yolks, a third cup of sugar, plus a tablespoon of vanilla, a pint of whole milk, cup of heavy cream, 3 ounces of bourbon, a teaspoon of grated nutmeg, and 4 egg whites. That's the recipe.
Wait, why are the yolks and the whites
That
separate?
is, yeah, you know what? I think it's you add them in separately after a different part of the thing.
Yeah, that'd do it.
Because when you do the yolk and the sugar together, it gets really creamy, and then you probably fold in like whipped egg whites or something.
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a cook.
So just before we get on to tech, I wanted to round all the way back up to the beginning. What is your personal opinion of Hershey's, Frick? That was the original question.
That's right. It's eggnog tangent. No, you know what? I think when I reviewed it, I gave it like a 3, maybe a 3.5. It is,
out of 6.
Out of 6. It is very. I guess the best way to describe it would be like wax, like candle wax with a bit of cocoa flavoring in it.
Yeah. So
I would say wax.
Remove all the nostalgia, anything, just purely as a candy or chocolate by itself. What would you rate it?
Oh God, probably like a 2.5.
Probably, yeah, I'd say probably 1.5 for me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's not very good. I would not describe it as wax though. This is like a much softer, meltier texture than wax.
And the only reason why I'm giving it so low is because the thing with Hershey's is by itself, it's nothing special. I mean, it's a great mixing chocolate if you're like has a recipe that needs like a chocolate drizzle, or you're making a really fast hot fudge or something.
It's
That's
inoffensive,
fine, but on its own, it's nothing special.
No.
Like American Kit Kats are far superior, and I'm not a big fan of American Kit Kats.
They're really not that different from European ones.
Well, I'm comparing to Japanese Kit Kats, which is basically just Belgian chocolate with this really, really light wafer. It's just
it's a religion over there.
absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway,
there's two
Or not.
now. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but I may or may not be reviewing the most expensive Kit Kats you can get, and maybe I got those. But there's actually 3 different varieties of Kit Kats in Japan. There's regular, there's light, and then they have a special branding called premium.
Mhm.
Now these are high-end, super expensive Kit Kats that only they don't come in like all the flavors like regular Japanese Kit Kats do when there's like 50, 60, 100 flavors. Premium Kit Kats, there's maybe 5. And they're very selective with who and which companies can make flavors in premium versions. So if you want one, get it as soon as you can because they sell out really fast and they're super pricey. Like $25 for one thing.
And that's Frick Frock 99.
There you go.
No, is it?
It's well, you could just type in Sir Sebastian, but yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, actually trying to move on to some news.
Yeah, speaking of religion, let's talk about those new NVIDIA graphics cards.
Sure. Okay. So, as you know, NVIDIA is amazing at its naming scheme. That's why they introduced something with a lower number that is successor to... They're not good at their naming scheme. Although, actually, graphics cards are terrible with their naming scheme. Anyway, NVIDIA is releasing a GTX 1650 Super, which, as you can probably guess, is a better version of a GTX 1650, which slots somewhere in... God, I actually don't know how it would relate to Pascal. I think
I'm looking at GPU Boss right now while you're talking about
I mean, it's still better. Like, it's still Turing. It just doesn't have ray tracing or tensor cores.
Well, I mean, he's trying to compare it to like a Pascal.
Yeah, the naming scheme is kind of
1060.
Yeah, the naming.
I think it's about a 1060.
Okay, so about a 1060, even though it's got the other one moniker in front of it. It's obviously not an RTX card, but it's just kind of boosted up. It's got 4 gigs extra VRAM, so you got... Wait, no, it doesn't. I lied. Going from GDDR5 to GDDR6, which boosts it from 8 gigabits a second to 12 gigabits a second. You also get...
you turkey.
Thank you. You also get more CUDA cores, which is like 30%, I want to say, increase in CUDA cores. Otherwise, it's just, usual clock bumps and slightly more power usage, same VRAM, 4 gigs.
So I've got a question. Why the hell is super just the buzzword, and why? What happened to the TI? Because TI was just a really good differentiator. I remember when the GTX 780 came out back in 2013, I believe, and then the 780 Ti dropped a couple months after I purchased mine, which just felt really wonderful. Let me tell you. The 780 Ti was just so widely regarded as the far superior GPU. I mean, because it was basically the Titan equivalent on the GTX side.
So, yeah.
Chris, they used to use...
Hang on 1 second, because I know you're going to go on a huge tangent because you always speak for really long, and I'm not going to speak for really long.
I'm trying really hard not to say bad words. I'm going to go refill my water. I hate you, Dad.
Okay. Simmons, just the thing you said, like, why are we going to Super? I actually I'm like the only guy that isn't offended by the Super name, because TI for me, or TI, what it seems to be, was it had a smaller version of the same not architecture, but the same sort of core. So it was like still, TU 116 or 102. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. It just had more of it unlocked. Whereas Super seems to be jumping to a different sort of, I don't know what to call it, but a different size node or GPU core.
Different die.
Different die. Thank you.
Wafer.
That's not entirely accurate because the 2060 Super is still using the same.
And so is the
same thing.
2080, but
yeah. So like Super, it's functionally equivalent to a TI. It's just, I think Super here is supposed to mean like, oh, it's like a soft refresh of like Turing, as opposed to it's Turing but a little bit faster. I'm not really sure what they're going with here.
I looked at some of the value propositions for this because I was curious, because there's no doubt the 1650 is definitely a more budget-oriented line. So I was wondering which one of these GPUs would be the best value, and I could have sworn to be the 1650. Guess what the number one best money for value GPU is right now, based on benchmarks?
Based on what? Frick, I swear if you're using like GPU boss, I'm going to slap you.
I'm not. What is it?
I'm going to say it's going to be something like 1060, 580 or 2070.
Okay, so you're close. So the number one and two, number one is the 570, and number two is the 1660.
Okay.
Yeah. See, here's the deal though, because low-end cards.
Yeah.
Let's say you're dropping $1,000 on a gaming PC and you've got an RX 570 in it. If you spend $100 extra and you go to the 1660 Super, I mean, I think that's $100 extra. Like 570s are really cheap these days, but like just spend the $100 extra, 10% more. You're gonna get a hell of a lot more than 10% more performance out of your GPU.
Well, the pricing it's got listed here says that you can get an RX 570, an RX 570 for like $110, but the cheapest 1660 is like $200.
Okay, so my point still stands. You're spending for a little bit more overall system cost, you can get a hell of a lot more performance. Or if you're upgrading from a 570 to something, you're going to be spending. It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense.
But then how else am I going to fit my my sick R9 39 words, my R9 3900X into that sweet budget build? You got to have those 12 cores.
Oh yeah, you're right. I need all that game cache.
I multitask so hard. I watch YouTube twice. It's crazy. Like every single core needs to, I got one core for Discord. I got one core for this YouTube video. I got one core. I got one core for Reddit. I got another core for my alternate account on Reddit where I upvote myself from a sock. I don't know.
Oh boy.
People have to know I'm right.
Here's the deal.
Someone's going to think I'm not joking as well.
No, okay, so I'm looking at all right, so right now, you think, or just I think we can all agree the best value right now is probably the 1660, right? There's no doubt.
Yeah, so
1660 Super.
Yeah, because the 1660 Super is literally $10 more than the 1660. And it offers a good chunk more performance. Like, to bring up Chris's point as well, I find people are very sort of, I mean, for better lack of words, stingy when it comes to graphics cards. They're like, the all-in board is, the custom PCB and stuff is like, it's $30 more. But that same person is probably going to spend more on that in coffee in 1 week. Yeah. It's like it's just $30. Like, I know whatever, but like,
oh God, Alex, don't call me out like this.
I mean,
oh my God, dude. I mean,
you just
I need my PSLs.
Chris, you have the Starbucks app, right? And you load up money onto it, and then you pay with that. Have you looked at how much you spend a month? Have you?
No, he has not.
Okay.
And that's what makes
what you need to do is on the first, or somewhere like in the end of the month or the beginning of the month, put a preset amount of money into that, and then never reload it. That will make you budget.
I will put $1,000 into
Chris.
And he blows it in 3 weeks.
That reminds me. When I had some money from South Africa, right? And it came in because of because of like tax returns. And it costs about $50 to transfer money to Canada. And I didn't want to spend, because it was like $150. I didn't want to spend $50 of that to transfer the $150. So what I did is I put $150 on my Starbucks card.
Using South African rand as opposed to real money.
Oh yeah, I mean the conversion ratio wasn't as good, but it was much better than losing $50 for no reason.
Oh, absolutely! Don't want the damn government to have that.
Anyway, I think we can call it quits on that 1650 Super something or another.
I think so. I mean, I'm just so fed up with it. I think if I had one last thought on that, I think I would be happier with the naming convention if they went with like 1665. Like, just
That's better.
like, honestly,
No, because they used to do that. They used to do that with the
Yeah, why are
200
they
series.
afraid of the number 5?
Well, and it's like the same like numbering convention that you see with the CPUs these days, where you have your 3770 versus your 3775 and stuff along those lines. It's just incremental.
Let's not drop it because there's another thing I want to talk about that's kind of related to it. There's been leaks with the next gen NVIDIA cards being named the 3000 series, which is interesting because they have almost always, well, they skipped the 300 series.
Yeah,
Wasn't that the mobile only division?
Yeah, it technically existed,
Yeah.
but I think it was not any different to Fermi or I can't remember the two.
It was a bunch of Tesla and Fermi rebrands and like the low end stuff exclusively for mobile. Actually, no, that predated Fermi. That was exclusively Tesla and the low end crap.
Okay, but yeah, it's just, I mean, at least if they go to the 3000 series, at least they're going to maybe stick to some sort of, naming scheme that makes a little bit of sense.
I don't.
But
think so.
it's
honestly, I've lost
it has
hope.
to be advertising. Like, as much as a lot of people complain about, oh, this is stupid, they must have done some market research, and like, even if people think it's stupid, people still probably buy it. Like, you see this a lot with cars, where people complain about, oh, this feature's stupid, but then the people actually buying it tend to buy it, are more biased towards buying that car with that feature.
I mean, I think it still follows the standard conventions of a higher number is usually better. And if I'm Joe Schmo buying my first graphics card, I mean, I think I could even figure out, 2080 is higher than 1660. This
But
must be the stronger version.
I think they're really adverse to trying to make it look like a jumble of numbers. And I think like 2085 looks a lot worse than 2080.
Oh, dude, you think that's bad? Have you seen the naming conventions for monitors? It's just a bunch of random consonants and numbers that they throw.
Okay. Okay, so but I'll give the monitors a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, because at least with like LG's numbering convention, the numbers, if you actually dive into it, do have some sort of relevance to
Asus
the size
is
of the
terrible.
curve. I'm only looking at LG here. Yeah.
Agreed.
So no, but a lot of these numbering conventions, at least from LG's perspective, and I think Samsung has a similar numbering convention, where it's just specifically referring to features associated with the current generation of monitor.
Yeah.
I know, especially with LG, like the 9 versus the 7 at the very end was referencing a higher quality panel versus a lower quality panel. A B versus a C was a curved screen versus a flat screen. And then there's just a bunch of other things along those lines. So I'll give monitors the benefit of the doubt only for that reason.
I know with my Asus monitor that I have the P27Q, I want to say, and then Asus replaced it with like a P27QG, but it's not a direct replacement other than the fact that it's 27 inch, because it's, instead of being IPS, it's TN. Instead of having like what's that, like backlight, it doesn't have backlight strobing, it's still G-Sync, but it's a higher refresh rate. It's like, for all intents and purposes, a different channel of monitor focus. Because I was like, oh, the P27Q is, it's discontinued. Let me see what the successor is, thinking it's still going to be like all the same things, but better. No, it's just a completely different type of monitor. It's like, oh. So, yeah. Anyway,
Here's one of the monitors I just came across. This is an actual thing that Samsung has labeled their monitors, okay? Samsung C32HG7D32. Can you figure out what that means?
yeah.
Because I can.
No, because
Dell's not so bad.
I'm not in tune with Samsung monitors.
Dell's not so bad either. Although I think they've gotten worse, because they had the whole ultra sharp lineup, which was like their professional lineup, and then P for actually professional.
Well, I mean, I like what Asus is doing with their ROG monitors, where they just call it like Swift or something.
That's
simple enough.
That's
easy to remember.
That's literally what I was complaining about. Like, I have a ROG Swift P27Q, but like the successor is not the successor to this. It's a completely different name, which annoyed me.
No.
Because, it's hard to find. And actually, they didn't even properly replace it. They replaced it with a 34-inch ultra-wide thing, which is not even the same thing. So
it's not even a monitor. It's a mouse.
Yeah.
So, Simmons.
Gamers.
I know you like Google because Because I'm
Oh, boy,
lying
do
on
I.
that. I don't know if you like Google or not.
It's a major corp, whatever.
Yeah, it's like those people that like Amazon.
But is it the good corporation or the bad corporation?
Well, I don't know, Chris. Let's see how much data they've got on you.
Oh God, yeah.
So anyway, a recent acquisition, I believe on Friday, Google agreed to buy Fitbit for $2.1 billion.
Chump change for Google.
Oh my gosh. I mean, like, honestly, like, the only thing that I'm seeing out of this is just like the whole Fitbit smartwatch thing is like the craze is gone at this point.
No. Like I think we said this 2 or 3 podcasts ago. The most sold watch is the Apple Watch.
Yep, by far.
Well, okay, but okay, so that's not what I'm referring to, because with the novelty of the Fitbit being that it was a fitness first watch.
Oh no, definitely.
And then as technology was developing, and then the Apple Watch came to fruition, the Samsung Watch came to fruition, then the Fitbit had to start integrating with like Android OS and iOS just to say, hey, look, guys, we're still relevant. So Fitbit having to put more money into these products to make them competitive on the market with like the Apple Watch as a perfect example, they're just not profiting as much these days, if at all. And I feel like Google is like, yep, this is the perfect opportunity to just inject ourselves perfectly into this ecosystem, and just here we go. Fitbit is now going to be a Google product.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be the Pixel Watch or the Pixel.
Yeah,
Go.
I mean,
but that's what I'm saying. I don't think they're going to do the strap that literally is a Fitbit. They're just going to use this and make it into a Pixel Watch or whatever.
Oh,
right.
God, what's making noise?
We can't hear that.
We're not hearing anything.
I accidentally put on Linkin Park trying to type in Okay, I'm sorry.
What I've done.
Goodness. Okay. But you know in like RTS games, when you get to like the end game and you're playing against AI and you just have like just infinite money, like it doesn't even matter. That's kind of what it feels like for these like large corporations now. Like it just
corporatization.
No, but it just doesn't matter. They just spend money. It's like, oh, who cares? I've just got billions more.
I think it's more about them not wanting to take risks on new technology, because Google has tried a lot of tech that's failed horribly. I think.
Oh, Google kills half of their stuff.
Well, I mean, they're better than EA when it comes to acquiring new property, so give them that much. But no, what's the last big thing besides like the Pixel phone that Google made, like hardware, that you're like, oh, I think that has a future or something?
Pixelbook.
Google Stadia, dabs.
Oh God. You only needed 200 megabit connection for 30 FPS.
Well, and honestly, I think you've got a good point, Frick, because like if you look at what the direction that BlackBerry has gone with their phones, they've completely ditched the BlackBerry OS and they've just gone for Android because it makes sense for them to develop the hardware and just use a known good software architecture. And from Google's perspective, they've got the software side. Now they just need the hardware side that is a known good, and Fitbit definitely had that.
Maybe. I thought they were very inaccurate.
Well, okay, so when I say a known good, I mean as like they were able to crank out a product. They were able to mass produce a product.
Sorry.
That's very
25-year-old man. 25-year-old man.
But
just channel.
So they were just it's like it's a company that has been known to be able to sell and mass produce a product.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not it was a high quality product or not is a different conversation entirely, but the product line is already there. So now all Google has to do is just inject what they want into the product, be it new designs, new hardware, XYZ, and they already have the production line, so they just integrate into the production.
And not just that, Google's most successful, one of their most popular products right now isn't even their product line. It's their Nest cams. They have so many different Nest like doorbells and thermostats and all that stuff. That stuff is more popular than their in-home stuff, like the Slate and the Pixel.
Now, was it the Google product? Is it the Portal that it was basically just the dedicated tablet for doing a video conference?
Facebook.
Okay, so that's Okay, because I feel like Google had a similar product that did a similar thing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong.
The Facebook portal, you know, when you go into like a shopping mall and you see those giant screens for directions?
Yeah, right.
That's all I imagined. Like, it's so
Why would
weird.
I want a Facebook portal? I don't want Facebook around me, and the Facebook portal is just Facebook but hardware.
Okay, so first of all, the target audience, Oh, we're doing good. But no, the target audience of the Facebook portal is obviously hardcore Facebook users.
You mean old people?
What the hell is a hardcore Facebook user?
Here's the deal. Facebook started out as this fun website where you could meet up with your friends, and now it just turns your grandma into a neo-Nazi. Like, it's got nothing.
Okay, I guess we're going with it. No, but honestly, Chris, what I'm getting at specifically is the marketing that I saw for this portal device was quite literally grandparents communicating with parents and kids or grandkids. And
their parents and kids. Their parents and kids. Be very clear there.
Yeah. So from our perspective, grandparents and parents being able to communicate easier while they're just doing random stuff around the house. And that's the market for it. It's really not like us who we really dislike the like Facebook and the Google monitoring and stuff along those lines. So obviously, we're not the target audience here.
Yeah, we've got like
the target audience is people with money.
Bring back Google Plus. Bring back Google Plus. Bring back Google Plus.
We've got echoes like all over the house. Why? And I just like scream and I don't know, because there was like a really good deal on them last year, so Dad bought a bunch. But it's like we've got them all over the house. I don't use it because they're just bad. I dislike them, and it's like I just scream internally every time Mom shouts at it like, "Alexa, what's the weather?" And it's like, no, stop. Just use your phone. Check online, please.
Look outside.
Look outside.
I mean, that doesn't
stick your hand outside the window like that one book of the Berenstain Bears.
There you go.
That doesn't actually tell you the temperature.
It's because
or
something.
Oh God, no! Let's not start this. Don't start this. Don't start this. You don't want to go down this rabbit hole.
No.
I'm pretty sure it's a Bernstein.
No,
Alex.
No.
I didn't grow up watching them. I grew up watching like Moomins as well.
Well, I'm glad you didn't grow up watching them because they're a book series.
Well,
so that'd be a really confusing childhood.
It proves my point. Yeah, no, just like Moomins or something. This is very unrelated.
I was gonna say, speaking of going down rabbit holes.
Oh yeah. Speaking of the Nest thing, which is the rabbit hole, but I'm going to ignore it anyway. What do you guys think about that? I think it was released actually like last year. The smart log or the smart plank.
What? What is that? It's a piece of wood with a camera in it. There you go.
No. It is. I think
it's a 2x4 with an Arduino.
I think it's called Mui.
It's all right. Okay. If you want to put that in the thumbnail, I've got some 2x4s and some Arduinos.
I'm looking at. So you posted a link in chat. I'm looking at this right now.
Yeah. So basically,
it's a .jp website.
I'm going to let me just explain before Chris complains about it.
This is a piece of wood, Alex.
So it's basically like a 2x4, but it's not an ugly 2x4. It's a nice 2x4.
Oh, that's actually kind of cool.
Yes. So my that was unexpected. My problem with smart devices is that they look like smart devices.
Like smart devices.
Yeah. It's like I don't know. They look ugly. Basically, it's the early 2000s. Hey, look how futuristic my house is because it's square type thing.
So let's get a 2x4 and bolt it to the wall.
Okay, so on that website,
first of all, it's been stained.
Yes, it's been stained. What I like about it is it's off until you use it as well. So it blends into sort of. Well, you can much more easily blend it into things. I know they've redone their website and it's a lot more professional looking because this used to be some sort of like WordPress thing because it was like a hobby project. And they had an example of where they got this idea was they went into some guy's home in the, or like one of their relatives' homes in the countryside, and he had literally his floors, his walls, and his ceiling was like this really nice veneered wood. And they're like, wow, it would be really cool if one of these, like sci-fi, if one of these planks was you could interact with one of them. And then they kind of made it. So,
dude,
a lot of YouTubers have those fake wooden walls. Imagine that,
Yes.
but real wood. And one or two of them are just smart things. And then when you don't use them, they go away.
They retract or they turn off?
They turn off. I mean, you could just take this and blend it into sort of like a headboard, or you could put it into like, I don't know, just an art piece, really. Like just having some wood on the wall looks really nice.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, my first instinct with this is just to like get like a finished like coffee table or something, and just like put this in the middle of it.
That would be awesome,
and just have it blend in.
Okay, so
great.
Here's my idea, especially if these are like.
Sorry, yeah,
Alex, I was speaking. Here's my idea, especially if these are all like Wi-Fi enabled. Yes, they are Wi-Fi enabled. So just make your entire floor these boards and have some way to like intelligently determine which board should light up. Like you look at the floor and one of them that's near you will
sounds horrible.
Will display something. No, that's a neat idea. It'd be neat.
Yeah, it's an open source API.
I mean, I guess it depends on context.
Yes. Ooh. See, that's good. That's good. IoT stuff needs to be open source and like able to be audited. Otherwise, it's just some Linux distro that hasn't been updated since like 2013 in your light bulb, and suddenly the Russians are hacking your toaster and shutting down half the internet.
No, my Cali.
Do you know what's so funny is I know
that actually happened.
No, do you know what's so funny? Is that sounds crazy conspiracy theory, like something you'd hear from Frick, but that can actually be the reality. Like, in the 90s, you'd hear someone say that and be like, okay, granddad, just be, like he's completely lost his mind. But that could be the future. They could be right. Right, Frick?
I don't want to talk about this anymore.
On that note, let's move on to the next topic.
Before you think about buying one of these Mui things, they're very expensive.
I'm not surprised.
Well, it's Japanese, and there's the import fee. So yeah, I don't doubt that.
No, maybe, but the early bird special's still on. That's 720 Canadian dollars, which is
Indiegogo's downloading without scripts. I can't look at this.
It's $550 US for the early bird special.
I mean,
I don't know how much they're going to be when they are out, but I'm guessing probably $650-ish or so. Oh, I actually found the hobby pictures. Anyway,
it looks like the screenshots from like a horror indie game.
What?
Yeah, so I guess my big thing with this is right now a niche product because, like you mentioned earlier, this is an IoT product that is pretty much unlike everything else in terms of how it's trying to just blend in. So I'm guessing that if something like this does catch on, and then we start seeing some of the bigger IoT companies just cranking out similar products, I could see the price of something like this come down significantly to like say $200 or $300, given the functionality of that. I mean, shoot, it has the dimmer functionality, thermostat functionality, voicemail. Chris, what are you going on about?
Go on, I'll tell you my idea when you're done.
Okay. So it's like, it's like because it being a niche product. Oh my gosh, Chris, could you shut up for a moment?
I'm sorry. All right, hang on.
Okay. So because this is a niche product, in terms of how it's presenting itself, the price is going to just remain high until there's more market adoption for something like.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of unfortunate because honestly, I would buy one if it was, let's say, $150 US is like my peak of where I'd buy.
Honestly, I think I would buy it for $300.
Here's the deal. This is wood. It's trying to appeal to hipsters. What we need is a more mainstream, red-blooded American audience. We need smart rock, the sheetrock with an Arduino in it.
Honestly, I was half expecting you to say smart plywood.
I was expecting to just like smart Coors or something. Smart Bud Light.
Man, at least pick a good cheap beer.
cheapier.
Oh no, we talking about the Gucci watch. Oh, did you guys know that Louis Vuitton made AirPods that are $2,000?
I'm not surprised.
Oh my god, and they sold out.
But this goes back to what we were talking about last week with the Ferrari.
Oh right, yeah, but that's terrible. This
Gucci AirPods.
I'm looking up right now. Hang
No,
on.
the Louis Vuitton chocolate is terrible. I've had some
How
before.
you've had it?
Yeah, it's actually not expensive at all. But it's just normal, like really cheap, not dark chocolate, but it's like 60% dark chocolate where it's like barely counting.
Ugh, semi-sweet.
Yeah.
So
And it's
I
got
was
the-
half expecting you to say I was like 90%
No,
cocoa.
and it's got like fake gold LVs printed on it. And it just tastes bad.
gross.
It tastes like
Wow,
waxy.
wow, yeah.
I'm looking at a photo of it
Yeah,
right
I'm
now.
eating
Also,
gold.
it's just like dark, Hershey Special Dark.
Oh god, please no.
Yeah.
Oh god, please no. Okay, so they made two different varieties of it. They made one that came in a regular box, and then they made one that came in lollipops that look like this.
Wow.
For those that can't see, it looks like that. You know what it looks like? It looks like those lollipops you get when you were a kid at the bank, and they would just have them wrapped up in that little bow. That's what that looks like. Really cheap and awful.
Well, honestly, no. What it reminds me of is those like knockoff, like Gucci handbags or whatever with the, with the print.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
Like, but just gold fleck,
There you go.
but fake.
Oh, what do you
Well,
mean
we'll be
the
good.
Louis Vuitton ones? Because they have the LV. Because, well,
Okay, so when I clearly said knockoff like Gucci bags.
yes.
So I mean,
It's not even the same brand. It's that bad of a knockoff.
Wow. Okay.
so anyway. I wanted to make a segue earlier about going down the rabbit hole. So there was just announced last week about 179 gigabytes in customer U.S. government and military records leaked to the internet. Let me look through this article real quick. Yes, a team says about thousands of individuals were impacted, though it's undetermined what the actual scope of the impact is. It includes booking reservations, including full names, dates of birth, home addresses, phone numbers, travel costs, stuff along those lines. It seems like it's primarily associated with hotels that were the target. I'm not really seeing any specific hotels that were targeted, but 179 gigabytes of user data, that's no small number.
Well, you got to think like, okay, 179 gigabytes, right? Like you said, it spans a whole bunch of different things. My thinking is, I mean, in terms of data, 179 gigabytes isn't that much in the grand scheme of things. But if you're just looking at hotel reservations and like, who knows if there's like photos and other stuff involved in that, it might not be as bad as you think. It might be like 2,000,
this is
3,000
like-
people.
This is like 200 gigabytes of text files, not 200 gigabytes of
See, that's what I'm
4K
thinking.
video.
Okay, I went a little bit deeper into the article. So it looks like what was compromised was a service known as AutoClerk. It uses for facilitating communication between different hospitality platforms. And it was a database that was leaked. So this is 179 gigabytes worth of database.
Oh God. Oh no. That's not good.
Yeah, so the numbers of thousands is just the known affected user.
Wait a second, Simmons, you're in the military. Did you get owned?
No.
Oh.
How do you know this?
So funny enough, without divulging too much information, the only thing that I was directly affected by was when OSI, I can't remember the name of the actual organization, was compromised, I think 5 years ago. And that was the company associated with doing the security clearance background checks.
Mm-hmm.
The known affected users were directly contacted by OSI stating that you were compromised and you were eligible for fraud monitoring services provided by the company. I was never contacted, so I assumed that I was never affected.
See, now you got to watch out for that because the last time that happened, and I think you, me, and Candyvan on the forum was when that Equifax break happened, and every single person in the country's like all their information got leaked, and you could find it anywhere.
Oh yeah, I found.
And they went around and
So
they
here-
contacted everybody, and they said, "Hey, look, there's going to be a lawsuit. Either sign up for this, and I think you can get like, what was it, like up to $300, $250."
Yeah, everybody's gonna get like $1 because the sheer scale of people who are like cashing it out.
Yeah.
So so I would say the difference between the Equifax thing and the OSI thing is that with OSI, it was determined who was all compromised after several months of research. So if you were not contacted within that year period, it was safe to assume that you were fine. However, people were still everybody who was in the OSI system at the time received a letter stating that this happened. You may not be directly affected, but you are still eligible for some form of fraud monitoring in that regard.
Yeah, that was pretty funny, dude.
so-
when everyone got owned by Equifax, the first thing they did was like, hey, we're sorry for that we got your information leaked out. You can either accept this payout of $200 or we can give you our free identity protection service. That's done by us.
Wow.
Oh, man, that was classic.
It shouldn't be an or, really.
So going back to the article at hand here. So it says that there were some government booking systems that were associated with the breach just due to the nature of the company and the service that was that was breached. Specifically, something known as VPN Mentor. It says they were able to view records relating to the travel arrangements of government and military personnel, both past and future, specifically in the U.S. government, military, and the Department of Homeland Security. So that's what that's associated with.
So now what happens?
As of right now, I think they're still trying to determine the extent of the breach. It looks like Computer Emergency Readiness Team of the United States, or CERT, was notified on September 13 of it. They did not respond immediately, and then the entire database was basically revoked on October 2nd. And
It took a month to do all this?
Well, so when US CERT was notified, they didn't respond immediately. They kind of just brushed it off. They're like, eh. And then the scope of it was actually determined, and I was like, oh, all right, we're gonna react now.
We were just hanging out. We were just making sure.
So this is a open-ended article at this point because there has been no significant action taken except for the database being revoked at this point. So yeah, I guess more to come on that in the future once we get more publicly available.
There you go. Simmons update.
Yeah, Simmons update. Simmons, can I identity theft you?
No.
Okay.
Oh, did you guys? So a while ago, I don't know if this guy is still in business or whatever, but there was this company called LifeLock ages and ages ago. And the founder of it,
Todd Davis, their CEO.
Yeah, okay.
I had his social security number.
I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that.
Dude, I listened to the radio in the 2000s.
Yeah,
Come on.
This is a very good show. So anyway, it was this identity theft protection service in the early 2000s, late 2000s. It might still be around today. And it got famous because the owner of the company would go on national television and bust ads and all this stuff and put his social security number everywhere. Like he would plaster it on billboards, radio, everything you could. He would plaster it up there. And he would taunt.
I think he had a semi.
He would taunt people and say, hey, bet you can't hack me. I bet you can't. He was hacked a better part of a dozen times. Using his own identity. He was like, the idea was our identity service is so secure. I can give you all this information and I am unhackable. And I think he specifically used the words unhackable that pissed people off. Because if you had just said it's prevention or it's difficult or something like that, I don't think it would have gotten that big of a reaction. But when you say the words unhackable on the internet and anyone gets a heard of that, that's a challenge.
Wow.
To build on that, I think it was either early this year or sometime last year when Apple was advertising the MacBook with the super hardened, impossible to compromise MacBook, and not even a week after those ads started coming out, there was a vulnerability found in the operating system. So it's like, you know what? It's like you're giving the internet a challenge. Somebody is going to be smart and stubborn enough to figure it out.
And more specifically, you're giving that challenge to people who just don't tend to respect authority, but so much.
Exactly.
It's like when the PS3 secret codes and the Blu-ray secret codes or whatever.
Oh, GeoHot. Yeah, GeoHot. Yeah.
They were like DMCA takedowns, and people were like, no, we're not going to do this. And then they just spread like wildfire.
Well, the big thing about that is the guy who did it, George Hots, I think his name was. He's the one that leaked all that stuff, and I think he ended up working for Sony. Like they first tried to sue him, and then they're like, you know what, we could probably use you. And I think he ended up working for them.
Yeah.
So it can always turn out well. And at the end of the story is, if you're gonna find a vulnerability, go to the company and offer it to them first. See if they give you good money, and if they don't, say hello to Black Hat World because you're gonna make a lot more money on there.
Absolutely.
Probably don't do that if they have record that you have that security hole.
It's not illegal to. I mean, how can you get in trouble? It's already out there. The hole's already vulnerable.
Hello, sir. Your website is vulnerable. Here's how I hacked it.
No, because a lot of companies will do bounties. Like Facebook and Microsoft will all do bounties if you report a bug to them.
If they don't, and then you exploit that for your own personal gain.
You're not, no, but here's the thing, Cynical. You aren't doing anything. You're just, putting the information out there, and whatever other people do with it is their responsibility. You're not telling anyone to hack anything. That's extremely illegal, but the information is from an already existing vulnerability. So how can you get in trouble for something that already exists? You can't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of vulnerabilities.
So I do want to I was going to say, since we were just talking about Equifax not too long ago. So this article came out a couple days ago. It looks like there was an Equifax lawsuit associated with their portal used to manage credit card disputes. So the vulnerability in question here was they were using the username admin and the password of admin to protect the back end of their credit card dispute portal.
Yep. Good old admin strikes again.
So the lawsuit was initially filed. It was a class action lawsuit back in February between February 25th, 2016. The lawsuit was recently, and it was for people who were buying shares within the range of February 25th, 2016 and September 15, 2017. Then there was the data breach in September of 2017. The lawsuit was settled, and now this comes out.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crappy because, well, it's not like you can really choose to use Equifax as far as I understand. They just have your stuff. They have your credit score data and all the things that come along with it.
And I think that's what the crappiest thing about this is. It was the credit dispute portal. So basically, this was anybody that had an issue with their credit reports, and the back end was just protected by admin. Wonderful, isn't it?
It's really weird.
Yeah, protect your back ends.
Honestly, I'm curious as to why Equifax is even still regarded as accredited at this point, or whatever the proper term is.
Big contracts, too big to fail.
Yeah, but at this point, it's like, how many screw ups can you have before your trust from the megacorps is just completely shattered?
I mean, yeah, I think they're just too deeply rooted, though.
How about this? If the fines don't outweigh like the extra cost of moving to a different company, they're just going to stick around.
Yeah, and I've always had an issue with credit reports for that reason, because you just have these three independent companies that are vastly profiting off this kind of stuff, and they just have full access to your entire credit history, apparently.
Credit reports are just like China's social credit system, except for American capitalism.
Well,
basically.
I mean, credit reports exist worldwide, though. It's not just an American thing.
Yeah, no, but specifically what I'm referring to with these credit reports is like, you've got the three major ones. You've got Equifax, you got TransUnion, you've got whatever the third one is. And if something just goes majorly south, there's just nothing you can do because of how, like was previously said, of how deep rooted they are.
Yeah,
it's a shame, honestly. But
yeah, I mean, speaking of like security and stuff, I mean, surprisingly, South Africa didn't have any sort of, credit score breaching things like Equifax. But what's something they did have, which
oh yes,
Yeah, the city of Joburg's website was held ransom by
Oh
a
no.
hacker gang. And
Hacker
Yeah.
gang.
Gang?
And for people outside of South Africa, he's referring to the city of Johannesburg.
These
South Africa.
roving gangs of laptop wielding hackers. You got to watch out for them.
yeah, so these definitely group of not 12-year-olds called Shadow Kill Hackers.
Oh no! Don't say that.
Wait, is that actually their
Yeah,
name?
it's 100%
Yeah.
their name. They're definitely not 12. Look, okay,
They
to be
spelled
fair-
shadow with
Oh,
a dollar
they're
sign
probably
too for
To
extra
be
edginess.
fair, they might be 14. Anyway, they are asking local officials for 4 bitcoins, or they'll release quote unquote city data online. So,
Okay,
so for once, the
okay,
South
hang
African
on.
people might actually have some information from their city.
So before you go into this, Chris, I want to read some snippets from the message that popped up on these
no.
people's computers.
I have an opinion about the Bitcoin amount.
Mhm.
Why do they want 4 bitcoins when they could have had 4.20 bitcoins?
Okay, because in parentheses, that's a very small amount of money.
Well, yeah, but at least go for the 420 joke.
No, but they're
Yeah,
12.
okay.
They don't know.
So
I don't think there's weed in South Africa.
we won't go into that.
Anyway,
So it says so some quotes from the error message that popped up on a lot of people's computers. All of your servers and data have been hacked. We have dozens of backdoors inside your city.
yeah.
What?
Listen, we can shut off everything with a button. We also compromised all passwords and sensitive data, such as finance and personal population information. If you don't pay on time, we will destroy all the data we have and send your IT a full report of how we hacked your system and your security
Wait,
holes.
they'll destroy the data if you don't pay them?
So I'd like to provide a little bit of context here. This is the city of Johannesburg's sort of website, you know, the website that no one
Yeah,
uses. When was the last time you went to your city of whatever's website, you know?
I didn't know it existed until now.
I go there every day. I go there every day to keep up with happenings in the homeowners association.
Okay, cool. So this
I'm white.
You don't.
this,
Oh, yeah,
this
you're right.
elite group of shadow kill hackers.
The elite.
Yeah. They're basically demanding 4 bitcoins or they'll upload their badly written, stolen data of questionable content online. I don't know where online is. Your servers and data have been hacked, the note reads. So it's just so pathetic, really.
How much do you want to bet all the hacking that they did was like they found the FTP protocol of the website that they left like unchecked and they just typed it into their web browser?
Honestly, my theory is they just did a brute force password attack, or they just like a dictionary password attack, and they just got.
They just typed in Johannesburg.com
and they did an admin
/directory. Oh, look, I found everything.
That wouldn't surprise me. The sort of internet security or just security online in South Africa with this kind of stuff is very, very, very bad. I remember we used to be able to do our tax returns online. Until basically it was running on like Windows Server 2000 and it got, well, no longer supported. And another government branch had to step in to tell the government to stop offering it online because it was so insecure and, you know, such a large amount of money and type stuff that we can't fix it, was their words. We cannot fix the system, so we're going to turn it off.
Oh, well, I mean, that's smart.
Honestly, that is
What else? I mean,
that's
that's
than
given the situation. That's the best they could possibly do.
yeah, but
yeah, absolutely. I have no faults with that.
to just but basically, I'm using that as point of the sort of government IT is such a joke in South Africa that this is not surprising by any means. It would probably like either Frick just, you know, FTP and find the address and it's like, oh, it's there, or just brute forcing it is more than likely how it happened. And
it's probably like some 8-character password, not case sensitive, turns special characters into zeros, that kind of thing.
yeah. I mean, also to be frank, the fact that they're asking for 4 bitcoins into I don't know. Oh no, they're asking for it into a wallet address. Just asking for 4 bitcoins is also just kind of like
Like all the
I don't know, Alex,
hackers know, if you're gonna do it, use Monero. For God's sakes.
No, but remember, we talked about this for last week, where even though the Bitcains, oh man, I'm doing great, but no, the Bitcoins are not secure in terms of these anonymous transactions. It's the most valuable one. So I mean, you get the Bitcoins and you just convert it to whatever else, and then you're basically done.
Yeah, that's so. Just I looked up the current price of one Bitcoin right now. It's about 9,100. So it's still pretty decent. They basically asked for like what, 36 grand USD?
Yeah, a small amount of money. We got to remember that.
Yeah, right. We must always keep that in mind. But the thing is, I thought, yeah, you're right about Bitcoin being the most valuable cryptocurrency right now. But do you know what the second most valuable is?
Ether.
Please tell me it's Dogecoin.
Oh yeah, it's Ether. It's Ethereum.
Yeah, still Ether.
$182 per Ethereum coin.
It's
no,
doing pretty good then.
Wrong answer. It's not Ethereum. It's Bitcoin Cash for $300 a coin.
Ah,
Oh, really?
yes.
Yep, Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah.
I cashed mine out for. I think I cashed mine out at like $700 a coin or something, which wasn't very good, but it was as soon as it got forked.
I remember the Bitcoin Cash because they basically said we were cloning everything, and then everybody got their clone Bitcoin Cash, and then they just sold it back into Bitcoin.
Yep.
And now I'm rich.
I sold mine into USD, in fact.
There you go.
I'm taking fiat because fiat is less imaginary money than Bitcoin.
So if you want to know what they got into, just going back to the thing, it looks like they just got into the AD directory and then the DNS records.
Oh my
and then
God.
with the DNS records, you can just, I don't know.
Turn off the site.
Just mess with the A records or something. And then the
Site
AD,
go off.
the AD, they're just going to grab sort of contact information and pretend like they have stuff and threaten them.
Well, I suppose with the AD compromise, it depends on how heavily integrated that they are with AD. Because I know with AD, you can definitely push a lot of personal information into it. And my theory is that they were just using, they were probably using Active Directory as the primary hub of all user information. So there is a potential that maybe the entire company's user base was compromised in terms of personal information.
Yeah, they also, I don't think they're pretty smart either. Let's be honest.
Probably not.
Like any of these, it's like what you generally see is like a month later, these people get caught and arrested. And it's like, was the 4 Bitcoins worth it?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, they're probably so stupid. They're like, okay, what address do we send your Bitcoin to? And they give them their real address.
No, but like, honestly,
hello, yes.
Things like this, it's like if you are like, I don't know, interested in hacking stuff and whatever, and you're 12 years old and you name yourself Shadow Kill Hackers, the best thing you can do is actually go to the government or go to the people and be like, yo, we found these exploits. Give us money or hire us or something.
I mean, yeah, that's your best course of action.
No, because unfortunately, what would happen in that kind of situation? Hey, we
don't say the specifics.
We found these exploits.
Yeah.
Well, no, we found these exploits. You should pay us to have them fixed. You get arrested.
What?
Yeah, like there are so many examples of like people, like students finding massive vulnerabilities in the network that their public school district uses, and it's like, this is a very real security problem, and they get prison time at the ripe age of 15 because grown-ups don't understand how computers work, and public schools are just worthless.
And you compromised the network. This is bad and scary.
You compromised,
and
all you did was like, you changed the background paper. How could you do this?
Well, it's not even that. A lot of the students that I've read about that come forward with these kinds of vulnerabilities to the school, they typically get the boot from the school, or they get like expelled or something. It's pretty sad.
That's just dumb.
It's like let's just bury the information and never fix it, because that's the best way to protect yourself from a computer vulnerability is just to keep burying
pretend
it.
It doesn't exist. Just
That's
like
not
real
bad.
life.
It's all good.
So speaking of wannabe hacker groups, I wanted to transition to this other article that we've got here.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a group of individuals who are posing as the notorious Russian hacking group Fancy Bear. Fancy Bear was actually they gained their notoriety from hacking several White House systems or United States White House systems back in 2014, and then the DNC back in 2016. So this group that's posing as Fancy Bear right now, they are orchestrating DDoS attacks and ransom-based DDoS attacks as well, where they will perform the DDoS and then they will contact the affected individuals and demand a ransom. So one of the letters that has come forward with the ransom note is basically stating, we are Fancy Bear. No, they're not. And if you give us a payment of 2 Bitcoin, we will stop.
What's with all these lowball offers? Come on, guys, have some confidence.
Well, so from what it looks like, many of the victims were located in Singapore, South Africa, and Scandinavia. So, wow, we've come full circle. We're back in South Africa again.
I want to leave.
So it looks like they're just targeting easy targets, smaller targets, and they're demanding 2 Bitcoin because, quite frankly, on the grand scheme of things, such as what the last group, what was it, Hacker Kill or something like that. It's they're targeting people with the hopes that they'll just pay off the 15 grand and then move on.
Okay, so just to give you an idea of what a big giant waste of time these guys are doing, I looked up the bug bounty programs that are going on right now of companies that'll willingly pay that for more than one bounty. The highest paid bounty right now that you can get is from Intel, who, if you can find something wrong with the company's hardware, firmware, and software, they'll pay you up to $30K for detecting critical bugs. And then Dropbox, surprisingly, $33,000 if you can find one that affects the what do you call it? To any of the vulnerabilities in their systems. So at the minimum, $12K, maximum $33K. All that time that you spend doing this low-level nonsense, you could have been making some serious dough.
I've seen a lot higher than like just, tens of thousands. I've seen like
Microsoft's giving $250K.
I think it's just like demonstrating that the bug exists. Like if you can actually implement a fix or something, it's worth a lot more.
Oh no, so it's the same thing. Yeah, you're right, cynical. You're right. There's if you look at Apple's bounties, they will pay a minimum of $100,000 if you can find something wrong with the data protected by Apple's secure enclave technology. And then you can also get $200,000 if you can find something with the security issues affecting its firmware.
Wow.
So that was the thing I wanted to point out, is that those bounty programs that you're referring to, they are typically software based. And it's like, find a bug or a flaw or a vulnerability within the software. What we're looking at here with these last 2 groups that we've been talking about is it's just denial of service.
Yeah, pretty much.
And denial of service is not a security vulnerability. Now, granted, the South African or the Joburg site, that was denial of service based on messing with DNS. This one from the imposter Fancy Bear group, they appear to just be doing DDoS against websites or companies or servers or whatever else, and we'll stop for 2 Bitcoin and then move on. It just kind of seems to be how it works.
Couldn't you just go on Cloudflare and just solve all this in like a day?
Yes and no. It really all depends, because a lot of people don't want to pay for Cloudflare services.
Okay, let me put it to you like this. Would it be cheaper to get Cloudflare for a year or pay 2 Bitcoin?
Yes, and that's the problem. Is like people don't think that there's a security problem until there's a security problem.
Yeah, that's basically companies.
I will simply not be insecure.
I mean, I can refer back to an incident at my personal workplace where we had our major network SAN die due to the interconnect on the back of it. And it was a known issue for 4 years. And then magically when it died, now we're going to spend the money to fix it. So that's just a major problem with many corporations. It's fine for now. It'll last a couple more years. We promise that we will eventually do it. And then it breaks. And now they have to fix it.
Yeah, I remember you drunk and pissed off with regard to that in the aftermath.
Oh my God. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I will not go into on this podcast. But,
but I don't know. I think your emotions are fine.
Yeah.
That's not violating OPSEC.
No. That was a fun time.
Thank you for validating Simmons' emotions, Chris.
Yeah, I know what emotions are.
Oh,
I'm good at reading them.
Okay.
Sure. So,
No confidence in me. Thanks, Dad.
You're welcome, son.
what? Okay, so
Yeah, I
What?
don't know.
speaking of security as well, on this kind of security breaching topic, their wave audio files are now being used to hide malicious code, which seems,
Wait, what?
yeah,
WAV files.
yeah, it seems pretty interesting. Malware's trend from moving from PNG and JPEG to WAV files. So, a technique is known as like
steganography.
yes, exactly, and it's the art of hiding information in plain sight, essentially, in another medium. So
Stego.
it's moving from pictures to sounds, which is
Oh wait, no, Alex, you know about this. Isn't there a technique where you can actually hide images in regular audio?
Yeah. So don't know if that's related at all, but you could kind of, in the frequencies that aren't used, I guess, you can just kind of put images in if you pay it through a wave thing.
So, like,
Oh yeah, like the spectrogram.
Yeah.
images.
Spectrogram, that's what it's called. Yeah, I know that because if you look at the waveforms of the spectrogram of the Doom soundtrack, the new Doom soundtrack by Mick Gordon, there's all these like 666s hidden in it. It's pretty dope.
Yeah.
I know
So,
I like that.
Death Grips had images in their album if you play it back in the wave.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
one thing you can do with regard to hidden images and steganography, if you take, let's say, the least significant bit of each color channel in a bitmap, or like the two least significant bits, you can encode a picture in it. Because if you just alter that by 1 bit, it's not going to be visibly different. But you could have, say, a 6-bit or a 3-bit color image that you could just hide in your regular image if you know where to look. But that's the point of it. You have it hidden in plain sight. It's not even encrypted. There was a really cool technique that I read about which used file fragmentation, where basically it was data hidden in the locations of sectors on a hard drive. So if you had consecutive sectors, like, they're not fragmented, that was a 1. If they were fragmented, then that was a 0. And you could like recover the data that way. That was used by a Middle Eastern military group. I'm not sure which country, but there's neat stuff you can do with it.
So going back to the WAV file vulnerability, so it appears that how it worked was the virus actually had to already be present on the system for it to take effect. So you had this planted piece of malware that was basically inactive until this WAV file would play. And when the WAV file would execute, I guess, it would implant a DLL onto the system that would trigger a logic bomb that would just wreak havoc on the system.
Yeah, because you've got to have something installed, because it's just random noise until you can get something to decode it. So that's going to be where your malware is.
So I guess the big thing with this, though, is like, because WAV files are notoriously large just due to being a lossless audio format, right? So if you could, say, plant a multi-piece form of malware into a album, and somebody just flips through the album real quickly, oh, great, now we've just got a virus on your computer. Wonderful. And then WAV files are used in a lot of advertisements on the web just because they're WAV files.
And they're compatible with everything.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Which is pretty neat, but yeah.
It's neat, but also slightly terrifying.
Yes.
That's actually a really cool idea, though. Just like a CD that, as you play it, hacks your computer.
Yeah.
That would be...
I mean, hell, didn't Sony try that once and just like bricked iMac CD drives?
Do you know... Oh, I kind of know what you're talking about. Wasn't it supposed to actually just be their sort of anti-piracy type thing?
Oh, Star Force.
Yeah, and it bricked hardware.
Yeah.
What's that phrase?
It was called Star Force, yeah. And the thing was, it wasn't just DRM. It was DRM that was like encoded into the actual BIOS, so you couldn't get rid of it no matter what.
Oh, good. Oh,
I
yeah.
think we're talking about a different thing.
No,
Maybe.
I don't know. It's a really long time ago when people actually used CDs. So
Yeah, it was like
Right.
it was either Star Force or Secure. No, it wasn't Secure ROM. It was Star Force. Yeah.
can I just
I mean,
point out quickly
honestly,
that we're in a generation where CDs are literally VHS tapes / cassette
Yeah.
tapes.
hey, we have a member of this podcast who has been very intimately working with CDs over the past several
but
months.
Oh yeah, hang on, give me a second. We've got
special.
files
He's weird.
Z CD rip v2. Had to do this a second time because I screwed up the first time. 542 discs.
Chris,
Oh, sorry, 542 plus 9. 551 discs.
Okay, so I will defend him a little bit. He was digitizing his family's library of CDs.
Yeah,
So-
because when Dad ripped him years ago, it was in like 128K MP3, and no.
what I do like with time as well is that you kind of get well, I don't know. It seems like 10 years ago you didn't care about sound quality as much as you do now, and I'm using
of
you
course
as
not.
like a plural because I go back at some of my previous songs that I took from a CD, and it's like 64 kilobit MP3, and I'm like,
Oh,
why?
yeah.
Jesus, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I mean, some of my old music were radio rips. I mean, and you want to talk about like the absolute lowest quality audio you can get. Rip it from AM radio,
Oh
baby.
god.
Anyway, moving on. There's 2 or 3 sort of interesting gaming news. BlizzCon was going on this past week, and they announced Diablo 4, which is really, really cool, actually. So
Diablo 4 with the Marketplace 2.
no, I was just go on, Simmons. Just go on, because I'm just going.
Honestly, after Diablo 3, like Diablo 3 did nothing for me, so I just really have no excitement for Diablo.
Well,
4.
they ruined the aesthetic of Diablo with Diablo 3. It was way too bright. It was too shiny happy. If you've seen the gameplay for Diablo 4, it's dark and it's gothic and it's filthy. It's great. So the downside is there's no offline mode. They confirmed everything is going to be online only.
I'm fine with that. So
Yeah, it's dark
hang
and
on,
gothic.
hang on.
It's like Blizzard's stance on Hong Kong.
Cool. Okay, so I actually am very excited for Diablo 4, and I really like what they're doing with the visuals. It looks very well done in terms of...
Okay.
So a thing that I place a lot of emphasis on with games, and which is why I really generally like the Diablo franchise, is music is a huge, huge thing. Diablo's music is just outstanding, and it always has been outstanding with setting a mood. The next thing is generally like lighting, mood, and storytelling. Diablo 3 really fell back on those. It was a lot more rounded. I mean, it was very obviously based on the StarCraft 2 engine. It had its roots in there. And you could kind of tell from everything was a bit too roundish and cartoony. And the sort of game devs for this they've said lots of times that whatever the sequel is, they don't want to do that again. And yeah, if you look at the gameplay trailers, if you look at the cinematics, which are amazing, it's not following that at all. It's very dark. They kind of seem to be reducing as well the kind of mass slaughtering of enemies, because Diablo 3 got very ridiculous, like to a point of where you would just lag because there was thousands of enemies on the screen and your CPU couldn't keep up. And
I guess if they're going back to their roots, I'll give them credit, but honestly, like through the years, Diablo 1 and 2 really didn't do a whole lot for me. Diablo 3 really
you just lost any credibility forever. That's the crazy talk.
I mean, and that's fair. I'll give you that.
I played Diablo 1 only twice, I think. Diablo 2 I probably played for 6-7 years. Like I completed that game many times over and over again. It is one of my favorite games. And Diablo 3 I really enjoyed as well, but in a very different way. It's a lot more Diablo 2 I like never played online. Diablo 3 I like never played offline. I wonder why. Because the multiplayer was really good. I actually have no issue with Diablo being online, because Diablo 1 and 2, I think people like to forget this, was absolutely completely ridden with hacking. Like it was the easiest and most readily game to be hacked, and it would completely ruin the online because people would just put in cheat items that would one-shot you. You'd leave the town and die, and you lose your entire character, everything, all your progress. And everyone was doing it, so no one played online. And then they brought in the online, like you have to be online to do to do anything basically. And everyone's like, oh no, it's terrible. But they're like true reasoning for it. And I get it was terrible because the launch was pretty crap, like error 31 or 37, I think it was for the first 2 days. That annoyed me a lot. But the concept behind it, I'm completely fine with, where the online server basically validates that the item it's dropping is a legitimate item, you know, so that you can't put in sort of middleman things. I mean, people did find a way around it, but it made it a lot harder to spoof items, hack items in and stuff like that, which kept everyone a more level playing field.
Well, that's the thing. If you look at one of the biggest websites on the planet for a while was d2jsp.org, which was exclusively a site dedicated to trading Diablo items. That was it. And actually, because of that, I think is why Blizzard went with the marketplace for a while, because people made a lot of money on D2JSP. A lot of money, dude. In fact, I'm visiting the site now, and it's still active. Like, it's even Diablo 3, which you would think wouldn't need a marketplace on there. It's still really, really active, and so is Diablo 2.
So I have a question for that. In regards to that marketplace, was there a way to pull the money out of your account and put it back into like a bank account or something?
No.
Well, after you sold items, or was it basically you got the items and then you got the in-game cash and that was it?
Are you talking about the auction house that was kind of around for the first 6 months of Diablo 3?
Sure. I mean, because specifically to what Frick was referring to, where people made a lot of money on
very
these
different.
items.
So that's I don't want to say illegal, but it's an unofficial, unsupported third-party marketplace trading thing. You'll see the same with WoW and a lot of MMOs.
Yeah,
Counter-Strike Source. I mean, Counter-Strike Go.
Yeah, it's very similar to that. Diablo, when it launched, obviously, you remember the auction house. That was terrible. Diablo 3's launch was bad. I mean, that's the best way to put it. The campaign was too long, wasn't that well thought out, and the multiplayer was you ground for hours to get a legendary item that was probably worse than your rare or common item. And it wasn't good. But what I really like about Diablo 3 is that they spent so much time, money, and resources on fixing that game. It was weird. You'd think you were paying monthly for it because they brought out so many quality of life, balance, and just ridiculous amount of updates to that game for nothing. Like, the game in the beginning is nothing like the game is today. It's a very well thought out multiplayer game now. It's quite grindy still, but that's the nature of a hack and slash game, really. I actually really enjoy it.
I don't have any problem with
I probably put like 2,000 hours in Diablo 3. So I am quite biased to it. But
sure,
it's a very fun, rewarding sort of combat experience, but it's nothing like Diablo 2. I enjoy it for a different reason. And what I do like is that they said they want to try and keep those combat things where, you know, it's very rewarding actions and sort of flow of killing units and skilling up your character, upgrading your armor and stuff like that, going for different paths and sets without being locked into one thing for your character like you were in Diablo 2 and then having to restart your entire character. I think people forget that as well. Diablo 3, you can just kind of change your skill points. So they want that they want the storytelling and the sort of feel and vibe from Diablo 2. And if they can pull it off, if they can pull off a really good single player and have the multiplayer, I don't know. I think it's going to be an amazing game. I'll definitely get it then.
Honestly, me and some buddies were just talking about that today. It's like, honestly, we need more good single player games. So if Diablo 4 pulls off good single player, then I'm all for
we
it.
Should definitely
but,
play it together as well. Like, it's going to have the multiplayer party thing.
Only if it's affordable, because quite frankly, I can't justify spending $60.
It'll be $60, I promise you.
I can't justify spending $60 on a game that I'm really just vaguely interested in.
I mean, a lot
it's
of
different for me. Yeah,
you're going to be investing into an ecosystem because, like, you know, Alex said, they put a lot of free stuff into Diablo 3, like a lot. And I think the main thing is you're seeing this a lot with video games, especially like big budget AAA type things, where there's this push for like a persistent world. where Destiny's doing it, like Destiny 2 is doing it. Even like Fortnite to an extent is doing it. Where
Skyrim's doing it.
Yeah, like Rainbow
Skyrim for the Switch.
Rainbow Six, Siege is doing it. Like all these worlds where you're buying a game, but it's being continually updated with content all the time. Tekken 7, like the fighting game community is really big with it. I think that's the trend that's sort of happening right now. And this is Blizzard and Activision. So I can guarantee you they're going to be doing that. I don't think it's a bad trend, really, because, I mean, if you're giving me more content for free, I can't really think of a problem like that. It's not like the days of like, the old, I think when DLC first started coming out, when they would have when they would have content already on the disc that was locked away behind DLC. It's not like that so much. I mean, microtransactions, that's a different thing. But if we're talking about like hardcore expansion packs and stuff like that, which the Diablo series has always done well, I can't really see an issue.
So, Frick, I'll make the argument with regard to on-disc DLC. It hasn't really gone away, because if you look at how many like games are doing roadmaps now where they're adding these features, it's still the same idea. It's planned DLC. Like,
well, I mean, but how do you know that? How could you know that?
Because the roadmap says that the DLC is planned.
Is that
okay? No, like, the argument I've always heard is like, okay, they're giving us like this. Oh, what's that awful thing that's on our gaming all the time, where it's like a game in 1999.
Back in these days, you get the whole meal, but now the mustard is the pre-order exclusive, and the hamburger is
it's like an image of the Mona Lisa, and then like 1999, it's the whole Mona Lisa, and then like 2005, it's like 75% of the Mona Lisa, and then it just keeps going on and on like that. That was the argument. Like, you wouldn't get the complete game. And you know what? There's a lot of games that came out in the past that was like that, where you would get the game and then like a major part of the story would be locked behind some DLC thing, or locked behind some sort of paywall, something you have to purchase to finish the story. That, that's horrible and that's crappy. But if it's like after it's already over and after the story is complete and you're not losing anything, then I think that's fine.
So I will say my counter argument to Diablo 4, because it does sound promising in the way that y'all are describing it. My biggest issue. All right, listen here. But my biggest issue is just with more so Blizzard as a company these days, and just a lot of the trends that we've been seeing with the industry. Like when you look at like Destiny to Destiny 2, there wasn't really a whole lot of difference in gameplay, but Destiny 2 was like a fully fledged game, where Destiny 1 kind of felt like a beta almost, just due to the lack of content and the lack of support. Well, I mean, there was definitely support, but it didn't feel like a full game, and then you had to buy in order to make it feel like a full game. And then you look at stuff like, in recent news, like Overwatch 2 is a perfect example, where you've got Overwatch 1, which is just fine and thriving just well. And Overwatch 2, to me, just feels like a cash grab just to continue the story, which was an argument provided by one of my coworkers. It's just...
So,
what story?
If the Diablo 4 will provide you a full-fledged story, and then will give you room to, in the future, purchase expansion packs, and the game will have a life beyond, say, the 1-2 years of hype, then great. I'm all for it. I feel like Witcher has done that well. One good example.
Skyrim.
Because... well, no. I'm specifically referring to Witcher 3, where you had this really full-fledged game, and you could spend hours upon hours just trying to complete this thing. Like, I think I had a friend who put like 200 hours into a campaign, and then the DLC comes out and you have another 80 hours of content.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Or, I'm all for Shovel Knight, for example. The amount of free content that came out for Shovel Knight is insane. Like, it's just more free stuff and more free stuff. And actually, what is it? The last, I think you already mentioned this, but exactly how much free content came out for the last Witcher game? A lot, right? Like a ridiculous amount for free.
Exactly. Like, if it's a game that is actually trying to keep the game going and just keep the community content and satisfied, and then maybe at some point, like some major DLC release. I mean, I can even look at WoW. You look back at like the original release of Classic WoW, and then you had this expansion that added this entire new story, this entire new set of features, and the game just kept developing and developing and developing into the mess that is these days. But the life of WoW has been years, like a couple decades at this point, if I have my timelines correct. And
God, what
I'm
about
perfect.
Minecraft? Minecraft's added like a lot of stuff as well.
Sure, and that one's a unique example because Mojang fully supports the modding community, and like you can just mod the hell out of the game to just turn it into a completely different game, which I think is really interesting.
Shout out to Microsoft for continuing to support the Java edition and
yes,
not really changing anything.
So I mean, that's my thing. Is like if Diablo 4 does have a plan to make the game last and doesn't feel like you're being shoehorned on the initial purchase just to spend a lot more money to keep the purchase going, I'm looking at you, Fallout 76.
Country roads.
Then honestly, I foresee that Diablo 4 could be a good game so long as it just has a good plan in that regard.
So yeah, what you did mention, I don't know if you played. Well, I mean, if you're not really that interested in it, I don't know if you played Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls, and then the Necromancer expansion. It's pretty much what you said, minus Diablo. So Diablo 3 vanilla was, rocky, and then it got quite good towards the end. Then Reaper of Souls released, and it's like, this is what Diablo 3 should have been. And then it's, they kept evolving and kept getting better. And then the Necromancer pack was like, I want to say it's DLC, but they added new character, new sort of campaign line, new maps, a whole bunch of multiplayer stuff, and there was like I think $20. It's like,
so was Reaper of Souls free?
No, Reaper of Souls was an expansion pack, but it was like a full-on expansion pack, like it continued the story. It was less than the original game as far as I remember.
Well, okay, you know what? It's like this is this weird gray area, but once again, it goes back to my complaint with Destiny 1, where it just felt like a relatively unfinished game, a really short campaign, and now you're spending money to get the real experience. You know what I'm saying?
Kind of, but yeah. I mean, Diablo 3 was just like, I'm not saying it was a good game. It's just like it got fixed. Basically, they learned their lesson.
It's a good game now, I guess.
But it's not a good Fallout.
Yeah, but
game.
It is worth mentioning that Blizzard North made Diablo 2. Blizzard North doesn't exist anymore. They all have left their jobs, probably quit rather than got fired. Who knows? It's a typical
or absorbed.
Well, yeah, it's not the same people making it.
Basically. And not to mention the creator of Diablo itself. I think Jay Wilson. I'll have to double check that. But the creator of Diablo itself, as in the first game, has publicly decreed, pretty much. How do you say disown the franchise now? He's like, yeah, they screwed up.
Oh, absolutely.
They screwed up. I think he went and made. Did he make Torchlight or did he make the other one?
Path of Exile.
Path of Exile. Okay.
I think.
Well, that explains a lot.
Yeah. I played Path of Exile. I didn't actually enjoy it as much, but
it lacks a certain finesse with the combat. The problem with Path of Exile, the combat feels really hollow and doesn't have enough weight to it. Whereas something with Diablo 3, despite its aesthetics being more like a Disney cartoon than like an actual Diablo game, the combat feels great. Like it's fun to kill stuff.
Yeah, it's not that bad in terms of graphics. But you also, you did mention the whole Hong Kong thing going on with Blizzard. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, you're not allowed to be excited for Diablo because Blizzard's an evil company now because Twitter told me so.
No, that's just a PR department.
No, but like
they've always been evil.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing is like also people are like, oh, Overwatch 2 is terrible. It's terrible in concept at least. You shouldn't be excited for this other thing that the company's making. It's like I can hold multiple opinions of the same company's different products, Like I'm excited for Diablo 4. Overwatch 2, I think, is stupid, and it should be an expansion pack for Overwatch.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to buy it.
Treat it like TF2. Seriously, like TF2, it's the game that keeps getting content
that keeps giving
in one way or another.
TF2 might not be the best example.
Well, I mean, but once again, that's the game that has
CS:GO. Good okay, fine. With that.
Here's the thing, though, because like this really came to a head. I actually had to mute words on Twitter for my own sanity, so they wouldn't show up in my feed. But regarding the whole Blizzard Hong Kong thing.
Mm-hmm.
it's really nothing. Like, it's an entertainment company and they don't have a whole lot of sway compared to, say, tech companies like AMD, who has modified their Ryzen architecture, specifically the cryptographic engine, specifically for the Chinese market. Wonder why they did that. We've got a bunch of
But how come
AI
how
companies.
come we're not seeing?
We've had a bunch of.
Sorry, how come we're not seeing boycott AMD then? Is that because AMD's the good guy?
Well, no. No, because as I was about to say, there's also NVIDIA, who is selling their Teslas and their Quadros and all of their GPUs for AI compute to companies in China that are using facial recognition. And if you've been keeping up the news, China is currently using facial recognition to identify and genocide an ethnic group.
That's a big oof.
So, like, that's a little bit worse than.
I was not expecting that conversation tonight. Here we go.
But, like,
Here we
honestly,
go.
though, as far as like Blizzard goes, that's nothing.
No, but I mean, like in the same vein, I do not agree with what they did. Like, I think it was quite a crappy thing.
Oh yeah,
to
no,
do.
like, it's a dumb thing to do, but
Yeah.
And I mean, hell, Marvel's been like censoring or altering their movies in China for ages, so
Yeah.
Like Blizzard, I think Blizzard just really came in at a bad time with this.
No, like I
especially
disagree
with like
what they did.
BlizzCon a month later.
Well, I mean, that's a scheduled thing. I disagree with what they did, but like it doesn't mean that I'm going to suddenly hate the devs of Diablo 4, you know?
No.
Yeah, it's God, yeah, publisher, developer, that's
Hate the
such a
publisher, not the
thing.
developers.
Yeah.
Hate
I
the
know.
player, not the game.
I mean, in a lot of forums, they're like, oh, I'm, you know, one of the things that I saw with the post that actually, it annoyed me because it's like the generic Reddit statement that's just copy pasted for this is the new company we hate. It's like, when will people wake up and see that Blizzard has been shafting its, what was it? Shafting people who buy its games forever now. When will people finally stop giving these people money so we can have real games made?
And then somebody inserts that JPEG of Modern Warfare 2.
I know that one.
Yeah.
It's such a classic.
It's just, oh, wow.
Oh God, there was a screenshot on Reddit though. Somebody posting in r/Blizzard. How do I recover my Blizzard account? I deleted it 2 weeks ago.
I saw that.
Yeah. I want all my items back. I spent money.
Wow. Oh, well. I think this is a good place to wrap it up before Mr.
Yeah,
It gets
before I
even
say any
more
more regrettable
Yeah.
things.
Like, let's not insult Mr. Winnie the Pooh. So,
Alex, if you make a Winnie the Pooh reference, I'm gonna smack you in the face.
Yeah.
That's also another thing that I'm going to have to mute on the Twitters.
yeah. So, we missed out the chickens. You know what? We'll leave it for later.
Yeah, we'll do that later.
we'll leave it for the next one.
So, thank you everyone for joining us on this intrepid journey throughout podcast history.
Yeah, especially you, Mark. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
So, thank you and good night.